Gita Shastra, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the wisdom that is coming from the Upanishad. It is the Brahma Vidya. Srimad Bhagavad Gita asks the scripture, it's the essence of the Vedanta Saram from the Upanishads. When we say Vedanta Saram, the Brahma Vidya, as well as the Yoga Shastra. So Upanishad is what? Upanishad is the functional name of Brahma Vidya. When we say the functional name of Brahma Vidya, Upanishad as the vehicle or the avenue or the engine to illumine the glory of the Advaita Vedanta. So that's where Bhagavad Gita, if you see, every chapter ends with Idi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. In the first chapter you can see Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama Pradhamodhyaya. Upanishad. Upanishad is that engine, that avenue that gives the Brahma Vidya, equips us with the Brahma Vidya. Upani, meaning something that brings closer, or that which brings together or closer. So that which brings together or closer of what? What has to be brought near to what? It means the Jiva Atma is brought closer to the Paramatma. So when we say brought closer, this is a superficial difference or a distance that the Jiva is creating. This is just an appearance, right? This is an appearance, this is just a notional separation that is happening at the Jiva due to the ignorance, due to the avidya. So Upanishad says that, the fundamentally both are same. It's not different from the Paramatma. So that is where Jiva Atma is brought closer to Paramatma, because there a notional distance was created by the avidya at the Jiva, and that notional distance is removed through the knowledge. Ignorance is removed through the knowledge. How you remove darkness? When you illuminate, right? Light only can remove the darkness. Similarly, the avidya, the ignorance, is removed through the knowledge. So that is the knowledge, that is Brahma Vidya, equipping us to bring together with the knowledge, equipping to bring the Jiva with the Paramatma, with the higher truth, where the notional distance was created by the Jiva due to the avidya. This is where the Mahavakya say, Tattvamasi has a profound Mahavakya. You are that, you are not different from the higher reality, the higher truth. In the Chandogya Upanishad, we can see the Udhalaga Maharshi, the sage Udhalaga, tells his son Shvetaketu. It is the same knowledge that Bhagavan Krishna is conveying to us through Bhagavad Gita. What is that? The same essence, Brahman or Paramatma, that is pervading the entire universe, also resides within all of us as the self. Akhanda Bodha Surupa. So you are not different from that. Say, hey Shvedaketu, please understand. The reality is same. But due to the avidya, due to the ignorance, this notional distance, this notional, the limitation is created. Notional limitation is created due to the identification that we created with the body, mind, intellect, sense. So here the Mahavakyam says, Ishvara eva jiva, jiva eva Ishvara. Ishvara jivo, jiva Ishvara abhinna. Or if you see the Shanti mantrams, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyade Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Here Tattvamasi as Tada and Tvam. Tada Pada Lakshyartham and the Tvam Pada Lakshyartham. That is where Om Purnamada Ada Purnam Purnamada Purnam Idam Purnam. Both are Purnam. Ada. Om Purnam Ada. Ada means Tada. Ishvara is Purnam. Purnam Idam. Idam means Tvam. Jivan is also Purnam. Idam Purnam. Ada Purnam. So now the question is how this is logically possible. How can two Purna exist? I cannot say the Vastu because it's not an object. How both can be Purnam? How it is logically possible? How both can be logically possible? Let us take a simple mathematical example. X equation. X is equal to Y. So when you say Ada, Tada, Tattvam Purnam, Ida, Tvam Tattvam, Jivan is also Purnam. How both are logically possible? Ada Purnam, Idam Purnam. So it means X is equal to Y. Meaning what? It is the same reality. You cannot be having two Purnam. Only one Purnam can exist. So our problem is basically the misidentification that we created with our body, mind, intellect, senses, where those are the upadhi. So instead of identifying with the consciousness, the upahidam, we are identifying ourselves with the upadhi. Whereas the upadhi is different from the upahidam. Meaning the consciousness is different from the matter principle. And we ourselves are identifying with the matter principle. And it is logically clear that the matter cannot have an independent existence. Can the body exist independently without the consciousness? Is there a meaning? So Upadi cannot exist independently of Upahita. Or in another way, let us see this kind of an equation. Atma, consciousness, plus Anatma, body, mind, intellect, senses, etc. So Atma plus Anatma minus Atma, remove the Atma. So Atma plus Anatma minus Atma lead to zero, because there is no independent existence to Anatma. Anatma cannot independently exist. That is where the Shastram says your Upadi, your body, your mind, intellect, senses, etc. are mithya, because there is no independent existence. Only one exists, Atma, that self, that eternal, that consciousness, that changes subject, called as the Drishta, the seer. Whereas what are the Anatma? Anatma is basically which is not Atma, which is what, including our body, mind, intellect, sense, ego, world, everything that we are able to perceive, that we are able to see the changes, that we are able to witness. Whatever we are able to witness is an Atma. And who is witnessing is the Atma. That is changeless, that is consciousness, that is eternal. That is the subject in the story. How you realize electricity? Either through a bulb, right, which is illumined, or the devices that we use, including the computer that we use, including the mobile phone that we use for listening, works on the, using the principle of electricity. So we can see the meaning of these devices. A grinder will do the grinding when the electricity is passed. A bulb will do the job of illuminating the room using the principle of electricity. How one can see the electricity? Through the gadgets, through these upadhis that are working using the electricity. But otherwise, can you see electricity just without these upadhis? The only way is basically go and touch the electric line. That we will realize immediately. But jokes apart, can we see the electricity? Only through the devices. You will appreciate. But in that process also we miss to appreciate the reality behind the working of an appliance. Correct? So in the Drigdrishya Vivekam, one of the compositions of Adi Shankara Bhagavad Pada, in the first verse, you can see Rupam Drishyam Lojanam Drik Tad Drishyam Draktu Manasam Drishyadi Vrittaya Sakshi Drik Eva Natu Drishyate. Rupam Drishyam Lojanam Drik Tad Drishyam Draktu Manasam Drishadhi Vrittaya Sakshi Drik Eva Natu Drishyate. So we see the things around, right? When we say we see the things, the forms are perceived. So what perceives these forms? Our eyes. Correct. Our eyes perceive the different forms, but who is there behind the eye to logically understand? See, our eyes may say this is a blue color or a red color object. The eyes are basically, the indriyas, the receptors. So will the eye say that this scene and the last scene is same? The mind is the perceiver here, right? The perceiver of the different scenes that eyes are bringing. Who is logically perceiving it? Our mind is logically perceiving. That is Rupam Drishyam Lojanam Tad Drishyam Draktu Manasa. Manas is basically the immediate perceiver of the things which are gathered by our eyes. But if you look further, if you look in a subtler way, is the mind the real perceiver? Because we can also understand that the mind is also undergoing modifications. The one who is perceiving the different scenes are also undergoing the changes. For example, we may say that yesterday I saw this something differently and today I see this same scene in a different way. So it means the modifications of the mind also we are able to witness. And who is that witness? That witness is the self. That witness is verily the perceiver. This is the drik. But now, can this self be perceived by any other thing? because it is not an object to be perceived by anything else. That self, that witness, that true witness itself is the subject, that is the drik. Very simple way. Forms are seen by the eyes, correct? Let us take a simple example. We all watch Netflix. Watching a Netflix movie or Netflix, this is the scene, it is the drishyam. Who is witnessing this? Our eyes, drik, the seer. Now, step 2, our eyes are seen by the mind. Or let us take a simple example. My left eye is having kind of itching. Who is reporting this issue of itching? Whether the eye is saying, the left eye is saying that I have a problem, come on. Whereas the right eye is okay, but I see a slight itching. Who is saying? Is the eye saying? Or this right eye saying that, yeah, the left eye is having a itching issue, whereas I don't have a problem? Or is it saying that I do have a problem, but I don't have a problem? The right is fine. Is it the eye that is reporting or noticing this itching? It's the mind. So eyes, right? Eyes seen drishyam, and mind is the seer, the drik. Step 2. Step 3, I am also able to see my mind, the changes that are happening in the mind. So it means what? The mind is not the real seer. Who is the real seer? You, the witness behind the mind, is the real seer. It means what? The real I, the real capital I. Here the mind is seen, and the consciousness, the real seer, is the true I, the consciousness. And this seer is not changing. This seer, the one who is witnessing, is not at all changing. You are watching the Netflix, you are watching the eye itching, you are observing the changes in your mind. Yesterday when I was watching this half part of the movie, it was interesting, but now it looks like it's really dragging. Whether the mind is saying that, somebody who is witnessing the mind is saying the changes happening in my perception. Similarly, the body is the actor here, mind is the director. Maybe from a movie point of view, because we all play different roles in our life. So who acts in this life? Our body acts. Body does the karma, body acts. Body wears different clothes. Body wears the cloth of a king, emperor, minister, prime minister. And the mind is the director. In a movie, who is more stressed or having pressure? The director, right? Similarly, our director is stressed. Our director is under pressure. Our director always, gets doubt. Mind is always under confusion. And who is the audience here? You, the true you, is the audience. And that audience, or the set of audience, what they do, they eat, they see, they move, they watch the movie calmly, eating some popcorns and watching the drama. This is what Bhagavan gave the first wisdom to Arjuna. Those things are temporary, coming, going, and don't associate yourself with those temporary things. The real me is changeless. You cannot attach yourself with the changing objects. Agama apaino anitya tam titikshasva bharata. Let us see another way. Our body is now acting in this world. Our senses are external, right? Our Pancha, Karmendriyam, Jnanendriyam, all are external. So I can say, at a very gross level, senses gathering the information through the senses, and it passes to the body. And in the waking state, our mind is conscious. Our mind is conscious. Just listen carefully. In waking state, the conscious mind acting in a body, and the senses are fetching different things, whereabouts of what's happening, etc. And the conscious mind is processing the information that comes through the senses and gets into the body and process it with a conscious mind. This is what we call it as a waking state. Jagrada Avastha. And in dream, basically, the mind is not conscious. Mind is still active. Because in an active mind only the dreams happen. And in a dream, it is very implied that we all are the actors in that dream. Means what? Mind is active. But whereas our senses and body not active, they are dormant. So a projection in the mind in an active state is called as dream. You all agree with me? Correct? In an active mind only the dream happens. And in the dream, you are also a part of the dream. And what happens in the deep sleep? The mind also is absent. The mind is latent. Mind is latent, body is latent, senses are latent. That is the deep sleep. But you, the center of consciousness, is always there in the conscious mind, in the active mind, in the latent mind, in this body, with the senses which are fitted. So it means you, the real I, is the center of consciousness. So what happens is basically when we drift from that consciousness and when we attach ourselves with the conscious mind, active mind, body, senses, etc., we are now in the state of living in ego and ignorance. And when we are in the state of ego plus ignorance, it is liable to have three issues. First is basically the sense of separation. You are now acclimatizing with the objective world. Out of ignorance, you have drifted from the center of consciousness. The sense of separation is liable to come. Then the play of ego and ignorance, so superiority will also come. Due to me it's happening, I'm great, and so on and so forth. And also the individuality binding, because you create a sense of separation and you deal with the objects in the world. So whatever happens through that ego plus ignorance, you create an individuality binding them. And as a result of these issues, sense of separation, superiority, and the individuality binding, we create 4 kalankam, 4 malinyam, 4 impurities in our life. So they are the attachment, aversion, enjoyership, doership. Raga, dvesha, doership is kartrutvam and enjoyership is bhoktrutvam. So, as long as you are in this domain, what will happen? The limitedness as a body will be mandatory. Limitedness as a body, because you drifted from the core. And mind again operating in the world will lead to a state of distraction, because you are positioning yourself in the world, deviating from the true nature. And what happens is basically, as long as you are in the world of objects, again, the happiness or every action will happens through the state of, creating a desire, fulfilling that desire. Because when you merely operate from the world, desire creation, fulfilling, desire creation, fulfilling, but practically we cannot fulfill everything. That is where the next step happens, depression. We try to create happiness by putting efforts and depending upon the result. So this is a cycle. Happiness, efforts, result. So if result is poor, bad, depression. If the result is okayish, basically that elevation happens, happiness. So what happens is basically sum total is distraction and depression. And not stopping there, maybe we can see in the second chapter, Jayado Vishayan Pumsa Sanghastesho Vajayade. So we can see that verse coming at some time, maybe 62nd. 62nd and 63rd. So ultimately what happens is the ignorance, distraction, desire, depression and the destruction. Destruction is basically padana. That is what Bhagavan says in 62nd, 63rd verse. The destruction of an individual. What is destruction here? Destruction is all about the incapacity or the limitation to think beyond, because they're always in the loop of happiness, efforts, result, happiness, efforts, result. Set a desire, try to fulfill it, derive happiness, put efforts, depend on the results. This is a cycle. So now Bhagavan says that you evolve, Arjuna, from a little mind, because little mind meaning ignorance is default. From a little mind to an evolved mind. So you need to do the actions with knowledge. So knowledge and actions. When we say knowledge, this is the Brahma Vidya. This is not the knowledge about how to use an AI tool or etc. This is not about the skills I am saying, the technical skills. This is the knowledge, Brahma Vidya with actions. And even Bhagavan says that you do the action with the knowledge and you go beyond that. So knowledge is important for what? Knowledge is important to transcend from the small I, the ego, to the bigger I, the higher level of mind. Let us take it in this simpler way. From a lower mind to a higher level of mind. See, let us further simplify this discussion. In each of our experience, what comes first? In every experience that we have, tell me what will come first? Is that the object outside, or you, the existence? Which one comes first? Which one has to be there for you to experience?
Existence.
Our own existence comes first. This is implied in every experience that we have in our life. Our own existence comes first. So it means what? The real I is within us only. It is internal, always internal. And idam and aham and idam. Aham is the internal, the real I, and idam includes our own body, mind, intellect, senses, thoughts, etc., etc. And that is outside me. That is where my body, my brain, my intellect, my capacities, my skills, my world, my transactions. I am always internal. Everything apart from that I is external. I am the Drishtva. as we discussed, Rupam Drishyam Lojanam Drik Tad Drishyam Draktu Manas. I am the knower, I am the seer, I am the subject. So today we will get into the verses, but before that, let us also reflect upon the three powers that we need to build in our life. First is basically the power of purity of mind. We say in Sanskrit term it's Chitta Shuddhi, or maybe in another way we can say the Viveka Buddhi, where Bhagavan brings this concept of Viveka Buddhi, discriminative intelligence. Second is the power of detachment, or we can say the capability to detach our mind from the objects, the Vairagya Buddhi. And third is the Ekagrata or Nischala Buddhi, or the power of concentration of the mind. When we say the power, first one, the purity of mind, the Manashuddhi or the Chitta Shuddhi, we need to fuel our mind to go from a lower plane to the higher plane. That is where the daily routines of an individual will help. Having daily satsang, having an effortless, or what is the right word, a selfless service, seva, doing things beyond our personal realm. For example, beyond any sort of selfish motive, do something as a service, seva. Daily uplift ourselves to reflect upon this knowledge, because the fueling for mind is needed. In the form of what? Japa, upasana, meditation, silence, chanting, temple worship, Sandhya Vandanam, everything. So further, how we can bring purity? By having a gratitude in life about what we have, whatever we see, appreciating that, appreciating everything in a positive stride. There should not be a day without having the learning, the spiritual learning, the Brahma Vidya. Other learning is also important, but daily satsang for fueling our mind, daily seva to become selfless in our life, uplifting ourselves, uplifting or seeing the divinity or appreciating the divinity through the different ways of java, upasana, sadhana, dhyanam, and having gratitude in life. One of the Shishyas in the Gurukulam asked the Guru, "Hey Guru, you are talking about stilling the mind, purifying the mind." The Shishya asked, why is my mind so messy? The Guru's answer is basically, you are letting everyone into your mind, or because you let everyone rent space in your mind without charging the cleaning fees. This cleansing is needed, because we, on a daily basis, the rejuvenation of the mind is needed, cleansing is needed. That is where I am saying all these things: daily satsang, fueling the mind, service, selfless service, japa, upasana, sadhana, mantra japa, having gratitude in life. Then comes the power of vairagyam, the power of detachment. Reflection in our life on a daily basis, right? If something is really bothering us, think about it. Will this matter in next 2 days, 3 days, or next 1 year, next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Will this matter me after a few days, or after a few months, or after a few years? Why am I really getting stressed? So this will help us to drop our ego battles and the silly attachments. This is the power of detachment. This is not running away from life. Consciously, with knowledge, we do the reflection. When we say in the 14th verse, we can see that the titiksha. This will help us to drop our ego and the silly attachments. Practice of just watching our thoughts. Oh, this is just a thought. Yes, this is a thought. This is bothering me, but it is not me, and it will not last for more than few days. This is where the observation, the reflection is really needed. And the other simpler thing we can do, one of the other simpler things we can do is basically the minimalism approach. Declutter the things that really bothers us, right? See, we usually have the habit of gathering and not letting things to go. Including our own clothes, we will buy 10 and we are unwilling to even junk another one which is already there. Letting go outside only will bring room inside. Letting go outside only trains letting go inside. Minimalism. When you buy 2 pairs, ensure that 3 pairs of clothes you will give it. If it is good, donate it. Possess very little, because you let go outside, then only things will come inside. There is no. So, what is needed? Just reflect every day and have the practice of watching us. And second is the minimalism. And third is the mindful distancing. Delay the reaction. Sometimes we are very prone to jump and so when somebody asks, I need a reply. Don't react. Or if somebody challenges, don't react. Delay the reactions. Respond. I'm not saying don't respond. Delay the reactions. And maybe after a minute, if you think, probably that reaction's intensity will come down. Pause it. Detach. Because this is where see, in bodybuilding, how one can train the muscle. You need to do training of a particular muscle, and you should also allow the muscle to grow after a muscle tear. Similarly, the detachment muscle we should use here. When you use the detachment muscle, you are also training to grow your capability to respond appropriately rather than react. So that is where the second bigger aspect of power of detachment or power of vairagya buddhi. Third is basically the power of concentration, the ekagrita. Ekagrita, the concentration. See, these days the young generation says it is really boring without doing anything. The biggest example is basically when you commute in a public transport like metro. How many of you, or how many people can be seen where they don't have a screen time, or they just listen to music without looking at the screen? Please tell me. Or how many people will be reading the book? Very, very, very less in number. Or when we go to a beach walk, how many of us will look into the look into the sun which is setting? At least 30 minutes before the sunset, see the pattern of changes. Or observe the water, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, observe and take a break, and then again look at the water, or look at the sky, or look at a particular lamp. We need to train to gaze and train to do the attention. And most of us will get distracted because our attention span is also coming down day by day. That is where we should do. Why am I distracted? Write down the distraction. Today I was distracted due to this. The next day morning you reflect upon that. Why I got distracted? What was the reason? And one of the common distractions is basically, including myself, the digital distractions. 10 number of messages will come. And the curiosity will come. Who all messaged, or what was the message? What was that email? We should do the digital fasting also. Without the screen, focus and break. Train to gaze and train to be attentive in our life. See, looking at the sea, looking at the sky, looking at the lamp when you do the mantra, when you do the japam. Write down the distraction, write down the issues, reflect upon it. That is how we evolve. So we need to combine these three things. What are those? Power of concentration, the power of detachment, and the power of purifying our mind. And we should have our own ways of enabling these three powers. Make it as a practice. These three things. What are those? The power of concentration, the power of ekagrata, the power of decoupling or detachment, and the power of purifying the mind, including the daily satsangs, seva, service, japa, upasana, sadhana, dhyana, dharana. Have a life that is always having the gratitude. Reflect daily whether the things which are bothering me will stay forever or not. Just watch, practice watching. Practice the style of minimalism. Let go, minimally live. It doesn't mean that you need to run away. When you minimally live, it will enable to let go inside the new knowledge. You create a possibility to expand when you are minimal. And the capability to distance mindfully. Don't jump into reactions. Pause it. Detach. Train the detachment muscle. So then comes the focus, then comes the concentration, ekagrata. Train to gaze, train to be attentive, focus. Note down the distractions. Why are they distracting? Then you reflect upon. So this has to be a continuous process, right? Let us make this as a practice. So with this kind of a context, let us now get into the 22nd verse of 2nd chapter, Sankhya Yoga of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Vasamsi jirnani yada vihaya navani grihnadi naroparani tada sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyadi navani dehi. Vasamsi jirnani yada vihaya navani grihnadi nara aparani tada sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyadi navani dehi. So what we do whenever our clothes become old and worn out, don't consider that that sort of an exception which I mentioned. When we buy new, we are reluctant to leave the old, right? Obviously we buy new when we have old clothes, or when there is a necessity to upgrade our clothes or the style or attire collection. So whenever the clothes become old or worn out, we discard them. Jirnani yada vihaya, and wear fresh ones. Navani grihnadi nara aparani. So whenever we feels that the clothes become old or worn out, we discard them, we take new or buy new. So similarly, when the body has become worn out, here I will use another aspect also, worn out or unfit for fulfilling the life's purposes. Whenever the body becomes worn out or unfit for fulfilling any of the life's purposes, the embodied person, meaning what? The consciousness, quietly sheds the body and takes a new body to work out for that person's destiny. Tada sharirani vihaya jirnani, enters a new body according to their actions and knowledge imbibed. Anyani samyadi navani dehi. So here mind and jiva identifies with a new body and takes birth until the clothes of vasanas exist. Basically, this says the destructibility of the body will happen. It is mandate to happen because the body has come. Body undergoes the 6 modifications. Asti jayade vardhade vivrinavade apakshiyade vinashyate. And also gives a very big hope of the doctrine of incarnation. Because the body, so the mind and jiva, the sukshma shariram still will exist. The sthula shariram has gone, the real manifested body has gone. The sukshma shariram will find out a way to take a birth. This is the doctrine of incarnation. Basically, this is really needed. In medical also you see the regenerative system. We need stability and sustainability. If you see our own cells, everything which happens in a body is towards maintaining stability and sustainability. And in the world also it is like that, right? By nature, everything is designed to be stable and sustainable, but we human beings created all those clutters. The stability and sustainability, these are very, very fundamental for a regenerative system. So that is where a body has come, it gets distracted. It doesn't mean that, the real self, the real consciousness will get destroyed. The sukshma shariram will take another birth for fulfilling the rest of the actions which are destined. If there are no actions to be achieved, if there are no prarabdha karmas and all, that is the end of that cycle. That we will see later. So the one who dwells in the body, the Dehi, give up the bodies when they are not fit for continuing and take others new. How actors change dress? For example, if you have seen these different movies itself, right? Actors change dress every now and then. Similarly, take it in that stride, take it in that simplicity, because this body as a manifestation came into existence, and the manifestation of what? The manifestation of the infinite consciousness. This body has taken a shape, the body has come into existence. There is a power failure. So the body has come into existence, the body has taken a shape. It means what? The body took a birth. Before the body taking birth, there was existence. There is not even a question of existence, right? Because Jadam cannot exist, body alone cannot make sense. Atma plus Anatma minus Atma is zero. Anatma alone cannot exist. So that is where from the body consciousness or the objective world consciousness, when one starts looking into the self, that self-knowledge will start building. When the self-knowledge is maximum, the inner freedom is maximum. This is where our rishis called as the moksham, parama purushartha pradam, the moksham as the first, as the final step. In fact, it is not the final step, it is the basic goal of every human being. And how that happens? When the self-knowledge is maximum, when the Atma Bodham is maximum, our freedom is also in the maximum condition. So, the divinity, the God, the Brahman, the self is our inner reality. We need to fix our mind to identify with that true I, that consciousness. When we fix it and when the mind attunes to that, that is the state of enlightenment. And how we need to deal in this practical world, nothing needs to be dealt separately here. You, the true I, is consciousness. This is the deep knowledge that we should have. And that I possess this body, mind, intellect, senses, the world, the group around you, the family that you have, etc. for the transactions. And all these transactions are conscious activities. All these transactions, including dealing with the body, mind, intellect, sense, world, skills, professions, capabilities, dealing with family, dealing with the society, dealing with government, etc. All are conscious activities. And the clarity that we have is I am the true consciousness. Always appreciate everything, including body, mind, intellect, sense. Due to them only we can appreciate the presence of consciousness, the presence of bodham, the presence of the consciousness for experiencing these things in this world. Appreciate that. But be very clear. I am the true I, that is consciousness. And I, the true I, uses this BMIS, etc. Body, mind, intellect, sense, world, relationships, skills, power, whatever is it, for the sake of transactions. That is how I create conscious activities out of the consciousness, but I am consciousness. So need to appreciate everything, but appreciate the presence of consciousness, the bodham, as my true self. Similarly, as I mentioned, to appreciate the electricity, we look at the bulb, we look at the lights. So, conscious experience that we have as human beings itself is the proof. Conscious experience that we have in our daily life is the proof or the knowledge that you and I are the same consciousness. So, what do you have to do practically? The deteriorations or the problems that we have in the body, mind, intellect, sense, conscious world plane, accept those lifestyle changes, including deaths, including transitions, without getting affected. So, vasamsi jirnani yada vihaya navani grinadi narovarani tada sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyadi navani dehi. Take it in that stride. Accept life's changes, deaths, transitions, etc. without getting affected. Now, verse 23. Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahadi pavaga na chainam kledayantyapo na shoshayadi maruda. Nainam chindanti shastrani na enam chindanti shastrani na enam dahati bhavaga naja enam kledayanti apaha na shoshayadi maruda. So this self, this true I, this true consciousness, weapons chindanti shastrani, weapons cannot harm the Atma. Na enam chindanti shastrani. Na enam dahati pavaga. The fire cannot burn this consciousness. Fire cannot burn the true self. Na cha enam kledayanti apa. Even the water cannot wet it. Water cannot drown it. Water cannot create a problem. To whom? To the self, to the Atma, to the subject. Objects could be affected by the weapons, fire, water, wind, etc. Whereas the subject, the Atma, cannot be harmed by the weapons, the fire can't burn it, water cannot touch it, and the wind, na shoshayadi maruda, the wind cannot dry it, wind cannot influence it, wind cannot harm it. So neither any of these weapons or fire or the water or wind cannot harm. This subtle consciousness cannot be touched by the gross elements. Destruction of the body will happen, destruction for the body will happen, but there is no destruction for the Atma, no destruction for the consciousness. The self is beyond these five elements. For example, every body, everything that you see around is comprised of five elements. Agasham, Jalam, Vayu, Agni, Prithvi. These five elements, right? Including our own body. Our own body comprises of these five elements. So our body is made up of the five elements. That is where in Bhagavata, Srimad Bhagavata, or even in the Ayyappa Bhagavata, you can see Ayyappan as the Lord of the five elements, the one who is residing inside us as the consciousness, Panjabhuta Nathan. Or in Srimad Bhagavatam we can say Bhagavan Sarva Bhudanam Adhyaksho Avasthidogu, the Lord who is sitting as the master. Meaning what? The self is the consciousness principle. So anything that is manifested is made out of the five elements, and the manifestation has happened due to the conscious intelligence, and that conscious intelligence is the Lord. So anything that can distract cannot be the self. Self cannot be distracted. Whereas the material things can be distracted, including body, mind, intellect, sense, etc., our money, our whatever is it. Fire can destroy, water can destroy, weapons can destroy, wind can destroy, but the self is beyond all those distractions, because the self is beyond the distraction. That is why our self is beyond the empirical science. Science deals with the objects. Science is not at all dealing with the subject. So the takeaway for all of us is basically not to become afraid in our life. Cultivate this fearlessness in every crisis that we undergo. Nothing can damage our real essence. Nothing can touch our real essence. Nothing can touch our true I. Nothing can touch our true self. Anything destructible is not the self. So going further, verse number 24. Achedyoyamadahyoyam akledyo shoshya evacha nitya sarvagadasthanur achaloyam sanatana. Achedyam, adahyam, akledyam, ashosyam is these four things. Achedya, ayam, adahya, ayam, akledya, ashosya, eva cha nitya sarva gadaha sthanu achala aya sanatana. So achedyoyam adahyoyam akledyoshya eva cha nitya sarvagadasthanu achaloyam sanatana. Achedyam meaning that cannot be slain, that cannot be cut. Adahya meaning that cannot be burnt. Akledyam, that cannot be drowned. Akledyam. Ashoshya, that cannot be dried. So this cannot be slain, burnt, drowned or dried. And it is nityam. It is changeless every time. It is all pervading. Nityam sarvaga. Everywhere it is there, all pervading. Nitya sarvagada sthanu. Achaloyam sanadana. So it is changeless, all pervading, stable, immovable and eternal principle. And it cannot be slain, it cannot be burnt, it cannot be drowned, it cannot be dried. Self is all pervading. We can compare self as what? Self as the space. Space is where you incorporate everything. But even if you add something into this space, the space is not affected. It is untouched by the changes that are happening. Similarly, self is everywhere. Self is all pervading. Self is timeless. Self is stable. And it is yet beyond the material form. Right? You cannot put a dimension or X, Y, Z or a kind of a coordinate or a dimension right in a material way. Self is everywhere. It is like a space. So if that self is everywhere, self is there in all of us. The same self is there. It cannot be a different self. So develop a sense of a unity with all the beings, because from a personality point of view, from a object point of view, there is diversity everywhere. Diversity is mandatory for the Prakriti, but see the sense of oneness, sense of unity with everything that we see. See, in Bhagavad Pada's Pradasmarana Stotram, we can see in the first one, Pradasmarami Hridi Samsvarad Atma Tattvam Satchit Sukham Paramahamsa Gadim Turiyam Yet Sapna Jagara Sushuptam Avaidi Nityam Tad Brahma Nishkalam Aham Naja Bhuta Sankha. So the self is one. Nishkalam Aham cannot be broken. It is whole. It is pure consciousness. So the self is being, self is existence, and self remains undiminished. Self cannot be touched. Self cannot be harmed. Self is a whole. Self is immaculate. Self is what? Self is achedyam, cannot be cut. Self is adahyam, cannot be burnt. Self is akledyam. Self cannot be harmed by water. It cannot drown the self. Ashosya cannot be made dry, or it cannot be made weak. It is nityam, it is eternal, it is sarvagadam, it is everywhere, it is always. Sthanu, it is stable. Achalam, it is immovable. It is sanadanam, it is timeless. There is no limitation for your own self. There is limitation at the plane of body, mind, intellect, senses. Going forward, avyaktoyam achintyoyam avikaryoyam uchyade tasmadevam viditvainam nanushochidumarhasi. Avyaktoyam. So, unmanifest and achintyam, and cannot be, comprehended. See, Atma is unmanifested. It is inconceivable. When I say inconceivable, we cannot use that mind to understand. It is beyond the comprehension of Vajo Vibhanti Nikilayada Nugraha. So the words cannot explain, the mind cannot conceive the self. It is beyond the thought, it is beyond the mind. And it is unchangeable. It is Tasmad Evam Viditvainam. It is Avikarya. That is not subject to change. It is unchangeable, it is unmodifiable, it is inconceivable, it is unmanifest. So, know this reality. The true self is, cannot be harmed by anything. It is unmanifest, avyaktam, ajintyam, avikaryam. So, by knowing this reality, Arjuna, you should not grieve. Self is beyond your mind and intellect. You need to transcend the sorrows. How? Through the surrender to this higher reality. Because due to the pettiness, karpanya avastha, you have downgraded yourself to operate at the plane of mind. But you are not the mind, body, intellect, etc. You take refuge in that higher truth, take the surrender, and use your intuitive awareness to transcend these sorrows. Verse number 26. Ada chainam nitya jadam nityam va manyase mrudam tadavitvam mahabaho naivam shochidumarhasi. So now, for the one who is born, obviously there is a death. Body is born, body has to undergo the death, because sixfold modifications will happen. Asti jayade varthade vivranavade apakshiyade vinashyati. For the one who is dead, there is birth. For the body which is died or dead will also have a birth. So, can you stop something that is bound by time? As I mentioned before, If the body cannot be extended to operate for the further karma, the body will get dropped by the Dehi. So can we stop anything that is bound by time? So here grieving is irrational. So one has to build the emotional resilience here. One has to understand the difference between bodham and jadam. If you are at the plane of bodham, you have dependence, you have the freedom. If you are at the plane of jadam, we need to understand that the nature will have its own rule, and the jadam is at the exterior plane where you are the real inner self. And understand this principle, jadam cannot exist without the bodham. So now verse number 27, Jadasya hi dhruvor mrityur dhruvam janma mridasya cha tasmad avariharyarthe natvam shojidum arhasi. Jadasya hi dhruva mrityu dhruvam janma mridasya cha tasmad avariharye arthe na tvam shojidum arhasi. Death is inevitable for the one who is born, and rebirth is also assured. If the vasanas are pending, the sukshma shariram, the mind and the traits will come back in a new body. So you should not grieve over the inevitable things, Arjuna. Life and death are natural cycles for the body, and the samsara is the play of the prakriti. And where is the real beauty? Real beauty is lying in the liberation. That liberation is the stage where, when we rise above the play of prakriti. So embrace the impermanence, embrace this reality, and you perform your duty with the inner calm, with the inner coolness. So let me bring a small story and conclude today's session. So one emperor asked Rajarshi, what is the nature of self? The emperor asked this question to a rishi. What is the nature of the self? And this rishi, the sage, says to the emperor that you come tomorrow, I will show you. So the next day, the emperor goes to the rishi, goes to the sage, and this sage took him to a river bank. So now the sage asked the emperor, hey, Raja, please look at the river by standing at the river bank, and ask him to look at the river. The rishi says, the form of the river keeps changing every time, but the water is always water. Correct? So next day if you come and look at the river, the water is flowing, the same water is flowing. Even the form is changing day by day. Will you call that river as a different river? So the form keeps changing, but the water is always water. The river is remaining as the same river. So too your body and mind change. But you are the awareness, and you are the same awareness, observing all the changes. So true self is deathless, and it is only through the prabhati, through the bhakti, through the sincerity, through the dispassion, through this knowledge, one can reach to that stage. So, hey Arjuna, equip yourself with this knowledge, and Bhagavan says, whoever is reading, listening to the Bhagavad Gita, take the same knowledge to you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.